Where does the Republican Party turn after President Trump? It's a question beginning to crop up more frequently as splinters emerge in the Trump coalition. This week, we're seeing Republicans split with Trump over the Epstein files. There have been debates over anti-Semitism and tariff policy, upheaval at a prominent conservative think tank, and much speculation over who will lead the party after Trump steps aside. Joining us to discuss the Hill's Emily Brooks. She is author of The Movement newsletter, which tracks influences and debates on the right here in Washington. Hey, Emily, so I want to ask you about what's happening with the Epstein files. There's going to be a vote today. I wonder if you think that shows, because Republicans are willing to kind of buck the president and support this discharge petition and force the release of this information, that there is a realization inside the Republican Party that Trump's not always going to be there to protect members if they cross their voters.
I think that is exactly right. And this vote, Trump did come out and say that he was in support of this bill, but that came only after it was very clear that there would be mass Republican defections from what leaders and Trump had been saying for months, that they were opposed to this bill, which was forced due to 4 Republicans agreeing to sign this discharge petition, joining all Democrats to force that vote. And this is an issue that really had the base of the Republican Party has been out of step with Trump on for the last several months, as he's called it a hoax. But these, Republican voters, activists really see the Epstein issue as a representation of the powerful and rich elite of the country covering things up, and the kind of thing that they motivated them to vote for Trump, and yet he was out of step with them on this issue. So Republicans are very responsive to that energy. And of course, Trump is not going to be in office forever. And they're sort of one of the things that Thomas Massie, one of the leaders of this discharge petition, has been saying is that this vote will stay on your record and follow you much longer than any Trump endorsement will. And I think that was true for a lot of Republicans. And after it was clear that it was going to succeed, Trump, did change his tone and say, just quickly pass it. Republicans are now kind of ripping off the Band-Aid on this Epstein bill. But certainly is the rare issue in which Trump seems to have lost control of the Republican Party a little bit.
It seems like over the past decade, many Republicans have kind of lived in fear of the Trump tweet, that they could be attacked on social media and that could hurt their electoral prospects. Do you think that there could be a lesson learned on the part of Republicans that actually now, in his lame duck term, Trump can be crossed without consequences?
That might be a little bit premature. Of course, we did see Trump break up, so to speak, with Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was one of those individuals who did sign the Epstein discharge petition. And the backlash against her has been pretty intense, as she has taken positions opposite to Trump on many issues. She always said that she supports the president and yet was taking issues that were in defiance with him, speaking out on things and going against the Republican Party line. So I think that is certainly something that she did not want to have happen or to see. She sort of created her entire brand around Trump as a politician and an individual and a supporter of him. So certainly will be interesting to see if she is able to have a political future given that, or if they reconcile. But even with this one issue on the Epstein files showing that there are some ways in which Republicans can take an opposite stance from Trump and see those positions succeed. If you're a Republican, I think that you are still living in fear of not wanting to get out against the president publicly or have him attack you. Not everybody has the same kind of name recognition and mass donor base of support that Marjorie Taylor Greene has. And even with all of that, now it isn't quite clear what is going to happen to her in her reelection prospects. So he certainly is still a major influence in the party, and not having an endorsement is much different than having an anti-endorsement and the whole MAGA base turning against you.
How much discontent do you sense that there is inside the MAGA base? You know, you have this Epstein issue, also on foreign policy, the H-1B issue. There's been some anger directed at Attorney General Pam Bondi. Do you sense that inside the MAGA base there is a sense that Trump 2.0 is maybe not going as well as they had hoped?
Yeah, there's always criticism of that, but I think on those two issues that were brought up in an interview with Fox News host Laura Ingraham, saying that he was defending H-1Bs, which are visas that are supposed to be given to highly qualified technical positions, but a lot in the MAGA base are arguing are not going to the right individuals and that the system is being gamed. And so they're very frustrated, these immigration restrictionist type people, to see him defend the H-1B visas and to see him defend giving foreign students and Chinese students spots in universities in the United States. That was something that they didn't like, a comment from Trump on that as well. And so, yeah, there is a section of that more populist, immigration restrictionist MAGA base who is alarmed at some of these comments from the president. But, you know, how big that is going to be, how much that lasts. You know, President Trump is known for changing his positions after he maybe floats something out there and reels it back if he gets negative feedback about it. But it was very interesting to see a lot of these figures who are usually diehard MAGA supporters criticize his comments in that interview.
Ever since President Trump came onto the scene, the kind of traditional conservative, maybe Reaganite branch of the conservative movement has been sidelined to a certain extent. But you write that they feel like they're in the ascendant right now. Tell us about that and why.
Yes, it's a very interesting dynamic. A lot of this has been spurred by this weeks-long fallout from Tucker Carlson interviewing anti-Semitic white nationalist commentator Nick Fuentes, and the Heritage Foundation president, Kevin Roberts, initially putting out a video defending Carlson for interviewing Nick Fuentes and saying that they stand against cancel culture, arguing that he wants to reach out to disaffected young men who might be interested in what Fuentes has to say. And then in response to that, a lot of massive backlash to the Heritage Foundation, calls for Roberts to be removed or resign, which have not come to fruition. Some high-profile individuals leaving the Heritage Foundation, and including one board member. On top of all of this recent controversy, the Heritage Foundation, under Kevin Roberts, has taken the think tank in a more Trumpy direction on economics and on foreign policy. And there is a lot of discontent about that had been simmering for several years. And so with this, it really just all heated up. And now you have a lot of people who are in more Reaganite traditional conservative think tanks who are saying they are seeing a wave of surge in energy. Even some donors, according to Advancing American Freedom, which is a think tank founded by former Vice President Mike Pence, said that they've seen an uptick in donations over the last quarter. Maybe they think perhaps we are about a decade into Trump dominating the national scene now. They are hoping that maybe now will be the time where conservatism, that traditional conservatism, becomes once again the core guiding force in the Republican Party rather than Trump as a figure. However, it is still early. We did have some of that sense several years ago after 2020 and January 6th, and Trump ended up remaining a dominating force. There's still 3 years left in his term, but that is something that a lot of those more free market Reaganite conservatives have been telling me.
When it comes to this split between people like Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes on one side, and you have people like Senator Ted Cruz, who has been recently talked about as possibly considering a presidential run in 2028, it seems like there's some irreconcilable differences on how they view things like foreign policy. Is there an effort being made inside the conservative movement, the Republican Party, to try to figure out a way forward where there's just not this huge splinter inside different kind of factions among the base of the party?
Well, I think that's exactly what we're seeing right now. And a lot of it is about the battle of ideas and influence right now. You have this more anti-interventionist, even isolationist wing, people who are skeptical of U.S. aid to Israel, people like Tucker Carlson, and then people who are debating that the U.S. should strongly support Israel. And even on economics, the people who are open and excited about broad-based tariffs across the board, and other free market traditionalists who are saying this is a terrible thing for the economy and will backfire, raise prices, etc. A lot of these debates are being hashed out in public right now. And a lot of these debates are going to continue up until the presidential primaries for 2028. But we're in a time now when the movement and people within it, commentators, politicians, are deciding and figuring out which ideas have the most energy, momentum, do they think are the most correct. Is it going to be a return to Reaganism? Is it going to be something carrying on what MAGA is? Is it going to be something that turns MAGA into a maybe post-liberal type of conservatism that embraces government authority and action more than conservatives traditionally have in the past? That's what I'm all tracking every single week in the movement.
That is why people should go over to thehill.com, click on newsletters, scroll down to the movement, and get it in their inbox, because there are so many fascinating and very important debates and topics being discussed inside the conservative movement. Emily, always interesting to talk to you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.